everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another range report. And as you can tell from the title of this video, this one's going to be a little bit different. Normally, I don't give anything away in the title regarding my thoughts and opinions, but as you can see, this one is different, and I think different for a very important reason. I want to make sure that if you're looking at this particular rifle, you watch this video before you buy one. This is the CheyTac CT-15. It is a brand new rifle on the market from CheyTac, which I believe stands for Cheyenne Tactical. They are known for making military and anti-material bolt action rifles that have amazing groupings at extremely long distances. And this is their first adventure into the semi-automatic rifle world. So I got my hands on this because it is on loan to the channel from one of my local friends who is an FFL and an SOT. And one of his distributors said, hey, we got these, they're brand new on the market. Do you want to try one out? And he said, sure. He got it, called me up and said, got a rifle for you to review. And of course, I was very excited at the prospect. Looked up the specs on this thing. I was like, okay, might not be a rifle that I was super interested in, but I always love shooting new stuff and to see if my mind can change or if I can discover something cool about a new product. Well, I got this thing to the range. And needless to say, this was a problem from the beginning. But before I talk about what happened at the range, I want to start this off like I always do and talk about my thoughts and opinions before I shoot it. So, before I tell you what happened, let's talk about what I think about this rifle as it sits. Now when I got this rifle out of the box, it did not have optics of any kind. I just added this little Vortec Spark 2. So that's just what I was going to use at the range today. So as you can see, there's some things about this rifle that are a little bit different than your typical AR-15. The first off is the stock. Now check out this stock system. It uses a buffer tube that does not have the adjustable notches like you typically would see for most adjustable stocks. It kind of reminds me of a pistol buffer tube. And then all of the adjustments are done with Allen wrenches here in the back, so you can adjust for the length of pull, and you can adjust the back plate from side to side a little bit. It is definitely interesting and very different. It kind of looks tactical, but in some ways, I kind of wish it would have a standard buffer tube, simply because if you don't like this, it sure would be nice to put on a standard stock, but they don't give you that option. This is a billet upper and lower receiver. Now, I'm not usually a huge fan of these billet uppers and lowers. For me, they look very bulky. Let me show you this on camera here. I just don't like that kind of slab side look. They're just very bulky, lots of angles, but not, in my opinion, in an attractive way. Now, does that detract away from the performance of the rifle? Absolutely not. That's just a qualitative opinion, okay? So I am in no way getting on their case for the way the rifle looks. It's just a personal preference. I kind of like the more stock AR-15 M16 type of uppers and lowers, but these billet ones I know are supposed to be pretty darn durable. When it comes to the charging handle that they decided to use, I'm not even sure what brand this is. Let me check here. It says it's the Warhammer. And this charging handle has very narrow latches. And actually, I find it to be a little bit uncomfortable to use. It's just too thin and narrow, and when you're pulling the charging handle, because it's so narrow, you have so much pressure on just a little part of your finger, it's actually a little bit more difficult to use. I like the big latches. I like how wide they are, and I like the fact that they are ambi, but they're just too narrow. They also use a Timony trigger. I'm trying to close the bolt here, and this is actually something I'm going to talk about later. So ignore what I'm doing right here at the moment, but we'll talk about that in a minute and why this is a problem. Okay, so let's talk about the trigger. It is a Timony drop-in trigger, and it has a very narrow face to it. Much like my complaint when it comes to the charging handle, this trigger is very narrow, and I feel like you don't have a lot of control with it. It's kind of odd. I like my triggers to be pretty thin, but I like a little bit more width. This might be just a little bit too thin. And maybe this is just an aesthetic thing or a performance thing that they're going for. I find that it is the same, as I said, on the charging handle and the trigger. Now, the lockup between the upper and lower receiver is extremely tight. Now, I have a few guns that are a little bit hard to get apart, but this one is almost impossible. I cannot push that takedown pin through. The only way that I can get that to go through is to take a bullet tip or a punch or something and push that through. I like it when guns have a nice tight fit between the uppers and lowers. This one, honestly, is simply too tight. It's just too tight. And that actually, when it comes to the main problems I'm going to be talking about, might be one of the causes of the issues that I'm having. But that lockup is way too tight. As you can see, it's even hard to push the pin back through. Okay, so those are kind of the qualitative things that I noticed before I shot it. So now let's talk about that magazine issue you just saw a moment ago. So before I got it to the range, obviously I took it apart, put some oil on it, kind of messed around with the controls, see what I like about it, not like about it. Well, they supply you an MFT magazine. These are supposed to be pretty darn high quality. A lot of people like them. Well, before I went to the range, I just inserted it into the gun, goes in fine, has a nice solid lockup. When I pull the bolt back using the charging handles, it locks open, right? Wrong. It is actually not locked open on the bolt hold open. The bolt is actually catching on the follower. And that is because the bolt hold open is not being actuated by the magazine follower. So when this happened, I thought, okay, maybe it's just these MFT magazines. You know, not every magazine is going to be in spec. Big deal, right? Well, it turns out, as you can see, when I drop the magazine, the whole bolt closes, and there's nothing I can do to get it locked open. I have disassembled the rifle, and the bolt open does work. It is not broken, but that little finger that goes over the magazine to catch on the follower is just not being actuated. It's not broken. I just can't figure out why. There's something internally about this magwell that makes it out of spec. I can push the bolt hold open and lock the bolt back that way, but it should do that with the magazine simply inserted, and it doesn't. So I tried a Magpul PMag. This one is a Gen 2. If I inserted it into the gun, that one, it actually worked, but I can see into the internals and it's barely catching. In fact, that bolt hold open is not even being actuated very strongly by the follower. It is actually behind it. It just gets stuck. It's not on top of it like it should be. So this one does work, but barely. So I thought maybe that's just gonna be a little bit of an issue at the range. So I got this thing to the range, loaded up the first magazine, and of course used the MFT mag that they provided. Well, let's find out what happened. Well, as you can see, that was very surprising, especially for a rifle that retails in the $1,300 to $1,400 range, made by a very reputable company. Anyway, let's get some more close-ups of this brass. So the way that it was feeding was causing the bolt to actually slam up against the side of the cartridge. As you can see, it was putting in these massive divots into the rounds and making these things unusable. It was crazy. I could not figure out why they were not loading. Everything looks fine when you look at it from the external standpoint, but something about this gun, it is not feeding right. So I tried the mag pull, and let's see what happened. Bolt did not hold open. It does now. So the gun might be undergassed. But as you can see, I'm trying to figure this thing out. I haven't realized it's an out-of-spec lower receiver or magwell yet. I'm thinking it might be undergassed. I did have a Seekins precision build that I worked on and built myself that had a very similar issue. The bolt wasn't coming back far enough in being caught by the bolt catch, but instead when the bolt tried to go home, it was being caught on the follower on an empty magazine. So that's what I was thinking it could be. And by the way, all the magazines that I'm loading at this point are only going to have between 3 and 5 rounds, simply because I'm just trying to test for function now. Well, I decided I'd try another magazine that I brought to the range, and this is another high quality mag. This is the Hex mag, and you guys are gonna see what happens next. It's quite interesting. All right. Okay, the bolt did not close because it caught on the follower. All right, so as you can see, now we're having a completely different type of malfunction. There is something when it comes to feeding from these magazines, it is hitting the side of the receiver and just messing these cartridges up. Now, I have never seen this type of malfunction before, where the bullet projectiles are being pushed into the case. Let me see if I can get that in focus there, and there you go. I have never seen that before. So when that bolt is going home with all of that force, it is picking up this round and pushing the projectile into the case. That is absolutely bonkers. And this was the worst mag so far. Well, I give it another shot. Did it again. Did not pick up. Well, I got it to feed one time, but for the most part, it's the exact same result. Well, I'm not giving up yet. There was another gentleman at the range there testing out some of his rifles as well, and he saw the problems I was having. He said, hey, I have a Surefire SureFeed mag these are some of the best mags on the market. Do you want to try it out? I said, absolutely. So he let me borrow it. So let's see how the SureFeed works. SureFeed, 3 rounds, testing for function. All right, that one worked. All right, so it looks like I finally found a magazine that works, the Surefire SureFeed. So there are 2 magazines that I've had any results with that are positive. That's gonna be that SureFeed and the Magpul. So now that I have 2 magazines that I think are gonna work, I'm gonna load them up with more than just 3 to 5 bullets. I think I'd do 10 in each and see how they run. I'll go ahead and tell you this right now. The SureFeed works 100%. The Magpul worked 100%, but it had the same bolt catch issue in the end. So here is the footage of that. And the bolt held open. Bolt did not hold open on the Magpul. All right, so we've definitely learned something important about the magazines and what I think is wrong with the lower receiver. But before I give you guys my final thoughts and opinions and some other things that I forgot to talk about earlier in the video, I do want to show the accuracy of this rifle. Even though all the shots that I took on this range report were simply for function, I really wasn't aiming all that well. Let me show you the target after all of those rounds that I did shoot trying to get this gun to work. And so there you go. The gun was actually pretty darn accurate, so they probably make pretty good barrels. Well, they are known for accuracy, but they are known for bolt action rifles as well and not semi-auto, and maybe that reputation is deserved. Okay, so as you can see, this thing was an absolute nightmare. I think after all the problems that I've had, my opinion is, and I don't have all the specs on an AR-15 and exactly what the distances between all the parts should be. I think when it comes to the bolt catch, the channel for the bolt catch is actually milled out slightly too far back, and it's not allowing the bolt catch or that little finger on the bolt catch to extend into the mag well far enough to catch most followers. Now, the SureFeed magazine probably has a follower that's a little bit more robust than the other options that I had. But regardless, all of these magazines are known to be high quality and rarely have issues. So why would it be an issue on this gun? It would suck to have this gun and the only magazine that seems to work is the SureFeed, especially when they provide you with an MFT magazine in the box, and it doesn't work. Now, another thing about this bolt catch that I did notice is that whoever installed the bolt catch marred the side of the receiver. I had this with another rifle that I reviewed on the channel, the North Star Arms NS-15, but whoever installed this bolt catch obviously messed up when it came to installing the roll pin and had the roll pin punch miss, scratching and marring the receiver, and they touched it up with some type of aluminum black. I gotta say, for a $1,400 rifle, this is unacceptable. This should not have gotten through quality control. I understand that these are very expensive to machine, but when these things are going out the door, you cannot sell them as brand new if they are marred and have been touched up at the factory. That is simply unacceptable. I also find it funny that this gun was not factory inspected. When I took this gun apart, I couldn't see where it had been shot. A lot of times they at least run a round or two through them, and it's going to leave a little bit of residue. This gun was brand new. Now, in the box, you actually get a certificate of authenticity and a signed document from all the people that built it and inspected it. Well, I think those people need to have some type of review. This rifle does not work. Well, I guess I can say it works with one magazine, but that is completely unacceptable from a company that is known to be the manufacturer of such high quality rifles and have such good quality control. I don't know what else to say. It is just unacceptable. This is a complete disappointment. Now, I am going to say this. I only have an example of one. So all of the other CT-15s might be amazing guns that have no issues whatsoever. This is the only example that I have. This is also made by a company I've never really heard of or shot any of their other firearms. So I have no biases, either pro or con against them. I am just going by my experience with this one firearm. So, as I've heard other people say, your mileage may vary. But if this is the product that they're rolling out, trying to get into the AR-15 market, if I were you and looking at this, I would definitely pass until other YouTubers put up their own reviews of this. As I said, I am not in any way saying that this is a bad rifle. I have an example of one, but this example absolutely sucks. It is unacceptable. The quality control, unacceptable. The function, unacceptable. There's something wrong with this gun. The tolerances, especially the upper receiver, are too tight. And the other qualitative things that I said, I'm not a big fan of this charging handle. It's just too thin. I wish they had a little bit different trigger in this. Not a big fan of this stock. But the big issue, of course, is the function. I had malfunctions that I have never seen and probably never will see again. I have never seen a projectile get shoved into a case like this. I don't know. There is just something wrong with this rifle. And I really do hate to do this because you guys know that while I might not like every gun that I review on this channel, I usually give them a few stars. This is going to be the Texas Gun Vault's first 1-star review. This gun gets 1 star from me. It's not redeemable. The only way I could change my mind on this rifle is if I ever get a chance to shoot another one of these things and it runs like it's supposed to and it doesn't have quality control issues like this mag catch roll pin, then I would change my mind. And as it sits, when it comes to the aesthetics and the other things that I said I don't like, if it functioned 100% flawlessly and had the accuracy that I did get at the range, and from shooting I can tell pretty good recoil impulse, this would probably have been a 3.5 or 4-star review, easily. But those malfunctions, 1 star, 1 star. This thing is going back. I've already called the FFL SOT friend of mine and I said, do not buy any more of these. You do not want to sell them until this is figured out. I'm going to give it back to him and he might even contact the company and try to get some warranty work on this thing done and see what they have to say. In my opinion, it is not worth buying, especially at the extremely high price point that they're asking. And of course, they're going off their brand name. Now, if I was a company like them that is known for making such high quality and expensive rifles, I'd be making sure that my first foray into the civilian AR market would be top notch. But they obviously did not do that. And by the way, in the box, you also don't get iron sights. Another little small gripe of mine. I think if you're paying $1,400 for a rifle, you need some cheap backup sights. I understand a lot of people are going to buy something different, but at least include them. How much can they cost, right? So there you go. So that is my range report on the CheyTac CT-15. 1 star. Unacceptable. It needs to go back to the factory. And if you're watching this review and are looking at this and haven't shot one or don't know the exact one you're buying and have shot it, I say avoid it. Avoid it like the plague until you know it actually works. So there you go. My opinions, thoughts, and experiences with the CT-15 by CheyTac. So let me know if you have a rifle from this company and if it has the same issues that I am having. I'd like to know in the comment section below because I'd like to give this company the benefit of the doubt. But right now, I wouldn't touch this thing with a 10-foot pole if I was looking at buying one. So let me know in the comment section below your thoughts. And as always, thanks for watching.